Thank you for having me here tonight. I'll let them get out the door. I'm used to it. Whenever I get up to speak, half the room leaves.
You only lost 5.
Now you have seats.
All right, now there's seats. Everybody can sit down. We're going to be in for a rocky ride here. So. When I retired from the state Supreme Court, I did something no one has ever done in the history of this state. I could have stayed on that court for another 15 years. It's great to have people come in and call you Your Honor. That's not what people do now when I go out to meetings. People are angry in this country. But I challenge you to find another person who walked away from a job like that to get into this race. The hardest thing to do in public office is to walk away from power. Because the people I've met wouldn't let go of power if you tried to pry it from their hands. And one of the things I've seen all my life is I have voted for these people. And they promised to do these things for me. And with a few exceptions, they never did a thing that they promised they would do. And I've come to the conclusion that the reason why they didn't is they never believed in what they said in the first place. They never believed in what they were telling me. And so when they went in, of course they didn't do anything because it didn't mean anything to them. The fundamental problem we have in this country right now is a lack of rule of law.
Amen.
We have a constitution in this country that we are to follow. Government officials are to follow. We have laws in this country. And what we have are attorney generals and district attorneys who weaponize these offices, pick and choose who they want to prosecute, which laws they want to enforce, because they want to promote some preferred political agenda or some vision of the future that frankly frightens me to death. The law is the law. I don't care what race you are, whether you're a man or a woman, how much money you have. There's one law for everybody in this country, and as your AG, I'm going to enforce it. Now I'm going to tell you something. When you look at our Constitution, when you look at our laws, there is one purpose of those laws. The law is to protect you and your families and your businesses. They're supposed to protect you. That's what district attorneys are supposed to do. That's what attorney generals are supposed to do. Protect you. Not take away your property, not ruin your businesses, not make you frightened to go out in the streets, not make you frightened to send your kids to public schools, but to protect you so you can work and live and go to church and feel you have freedom and you feel safe. That's what the law is supposed to do. The 14th Amendment says that we have protections of life, liberty, and property. That's the guarantee of this country. But your public officials are failing you. They are not protecting you. They're not protecting your families. And they're taking away your property. They're doing the opposite. And I can point to example after example. Vaccine mandates. That is your personal choice. That is your body. We used to believe in bodily integrity in this country. You can sue somebody for touching you if you don't want them to. We have a president who has mandated vaccines, and unlike masks and gloves, which are also oppressive, you can't take them off after you have them. It's in your body forever. Article 2 of the United States Constitution gives absolutely no authority to the President of the United States to issue a vaccine mandate nationwide. None. None. Congress did not delegate to the President of the United States the authority to impose a nationwide vaccine, nor does Congress have that authority. That is the police power of the states. That is reserved to the state legislatures. And so we have these mandates that were rolled out with no authority. Emergency powers. Think about the nations that have been ruled by emergency powers. Not here. Our country stands for the rule of law. That's America. We have laws in this country. We don't let presidents or any other government official roll out emergency orders. And every time we've done it in this country, it's been an embarrassment. Alien and Sedition Acts, internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, all these things, suspension of habeas corpus during the Civil War. We always regret it. We are not a nation that is ruled by emergency powers. But that's happening today. Governors do it. We have this medical emergency exception now, where virtually anything that can be categorized as a medical emergency passes muster, even though there's no authority. I want you to remember one thing, if you remember nothing else from what I say tonight. Every single person who comes in here and is running for public office, ask them one question. Every idea they come up with, please ask them this. What is your authority for doing that? Please ask them that question. Because if they can't tell you their legal authority, they can't do it. Hold their feet to the fire, ask them. We have a crime surge in this country. We have prosecutors who are going into these offices and refusing to enforce entire categories of crimes. Now, all of you have heard of prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion means in an individual case, based on the facts of that case, a prosecutor can decide, I don't have enough evidence. That does not allow a prosecutor to say, I'm not going to prosecute armed robbery. I'm not going to prosecute shoplifting. You know who has the authority to make criminal laws in this country? The legislature, not prosecutors. And so what these prosecutors have done is they have violated the separation of powers by saying they will refuse to enforce categories of crimes, by downgrading crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. They cannot do that under the Constitution. It is the legislature and the Congress that has the authority to pass criminal laws. When I'm your AG, if there is a local county attorney that refuses to enforce the laws, I will come in the AG's office and I'll prosecute it. And if they say that they're not going to prosecute an entire category of crimes, we will be in court to see if they have violated the Constitution. Because the oath that every official takes in this country is to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the laws of this federal government and the state. And if you're not doing that, you are violating your oath of office. The biggest example of lawlessness in this country, the biggest I've ever seen, is the border. I lived in Yuma for 22 years. And I like it when people go down and visit the border and take pictures. That's a nice thing. But I lived there. I prosecuted cartels. I had them threaten my family. I had to send my family out of state. And it's nice that all these candidates like to come down. They like to take pictures in Yuma. They like to go around the border. They like to talk about how to get tough on the cartels. Wait until you do. Wait until you do. We have allowed criminal organizations to come into the United States and control United States territory. They are controlling private property. I went down and visited Jim and Sue Chilton. You may know them. They're ranchers down in Arivaca. I drove around their ranch with them all day. They have cartels walking through their property. They have cartel cars that are stranded, garbage, backpacks, people in camo fatigues with AK-47s. They can't even call on a cell phone because there's so many cartel spotters on their land. They have to pick up a hard line. When I knocked on Jim Chilton's door, he came to the door with a shotgun because he doesn't know who's coming on his property. And I asked him, Jim, why do you stay? You must be scared to death to go to bed at night. Why do you stay? And he said, my family has lived on this land and ranched this land with cattle for 150 years. It is our way of life, and I'm not going to leave. When this country is tasked with protecting our citizens and their property, and we have people like Jim and Sue Chilton down on our border, where they're scared to death, and they have criminals roaming at will, this country has failed. This country has failed. I was raised in a home to love America. I came from nothing. My family, we were homeless. I remember living in a car. I remember living in a barn. But my parents were good Christian people, and they encouraged me every day of my life. And they said, you can be somebody in America. You can be somebody. They never realized that dream, but they sacrificed for me. I remember when I was in college, my mom would send me these little $2 checks. Who writes a $2 check? I never cashed one. But she wanted me to be able to get a little food or to have a little money. Let me tell you something. That was her last $2. Her last $2. I remember driving around and people making fun of my clothes and making fun of my car and making fun of my mom and dad. And I'll tell you, it gave me a chip on my shoulder growing up. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. We've got a lot of people struggling in this country, and we want to give them opportunities. But what's happening today is we are taking that American dream away. We're taking it away from our kids and our grandkids. It is a wonderful thing that a guy like me was able to make it all the way to the Arizona Supreme Court. Only in America could that happen. There is no other country in the world where that could happen. Is that out there? You tell me another country where that can happen. But what I worry about is it's not going to be the same country for my kids and my grandkids. It's already happening. They're taking it away. I'm sick and tired of people telling me how terrible this country is. It's the greatest country that has ever been in this country. We're not perfect, and we know it. But tell me a country that has struggled as hard to give as many people opportunity and right as many wrongs, and people have died for it. There is no country like America. We need to defend this country. We need to give opportunity to that next generation because it is being taken away from them. And when I think of my mother and all the sacrifice and all the things she did, she grew up in the Depression and during World War II. She would not recognize this country. When we would go into a restaurant, when I became a judge, the server would come over to our table, and before she could even take our drink order, my mom would say, "This is my son, he's a judge." If we went into a service station, into a 7-Eleven, before we could even pay for the beef jerky, my mom would say, "This is my son, he's a judge." She was so proud because it made it feel like it was all worth something to her. And I was embarrassed at the time, but shame on me. I wish I could turn back the clock. Because it meant something that she could sacrifice, that she could give something to her kids. Isn't that what we all want? Yeah. We want our kids to grow up in this country, to experience America, to understand how great it is. And what we're teaching them is, don't follow the law. The law doesn't mean anything. Do whatever you think, whatever you feel. There is no truth. There is no right or wrong. What a terrible thing to do to this generation. What a great disservice. So I'll conclude with this. I'm here to fight for you. I've been bought with a price. I have people who have gone to the grave that entrusted me to do something good for this country, that there's something still good worth fighting for in America. I'll never betray that. I won't be one of these people who let you down. I will be your lawyer. I won't be a politician. You don't need a politician in the Attorney General's office. You don't need somebody who can win the social media wars or get on TV. You need a lawyer in that office every day fighting for you and protecting you. That's what you need. Amen. I've dedicated my life to the law. I've been a lawyer over 30 years. I've tried hundreds of jury trials. I've served in every type of legal office you can imagine. I've served at every level of the courts. I know what our problems are. I know what we need to do. It is not political for me, and I'm not trying to make a name for myself. I already had one. My wife said, "Why didn't you run for AG and then become a Supreme Court judge since you got it backwards?" So be it. I've been blessed. And I want to bring this to you so that I can help you make your lives better, so thank you.
Yes, that's what it's here for. My question might be long enough for you to drink a little bit of that.
If I drink
Evidently,
this whole cup by the end of your question, I don't know. If
that's too long of a question.
Sounds like the man for the job.
Evidently, there was
I
a
wanna know why he
resolution introduced
retired.
in the,
Did they have a specific-
legislature
He said he
yesterday
retired.
by
Did they have a
Finchel.
specific
I haven't seen
term
that.
they
This is an
served?
election integrity.
No, it's,